everyone, it's Julia with Senior Susie Stamps, and in a recent video I showed you some tapes that I had made. I could just call them washi tape because I don't know what else to call them. At any rate, there's several different mediums here that I have used, and before we get started, let me tell you, Cordelia has moved up to the studio because she and Snickers were not getting along downstairs. So now she's living up here having a big time, and you'll probably hear her knocking around and playing a little bit. I can't help that. She likes to kind of get in the act a little bit on her own. But at any rate, there's that. And then also my seasonal allergies have started, so I'm a little froggy throated, and I'll record a little short video today and then hope my voice comes back, because I'm supposed to go on this retreat next week, and if it gets worse I'll have to bow out, and that will really hurt my feelings. So at any rate, y'all pray for me to get better, and let's get on with this. So this was some paper out of a Sudoku book, and it was the answer sheets. I coffee dyed it, and then I added a little bit of distressing ink to that. And then on this one, I took a piece of that and did a little tear on it. You can see here where I tore. And then I added it to some book page. And let me show you that book, because I recently found it on eBay. It's an old Greg shorthand book, and it has all kinds of little wonderful little squiggly images in it and good words and text. So when I buy a book like this, I look for one that has a good aging around on the page, and one that doesn't have offensive language in it, and a shorthand book is really good for that. Plus you get all this really interesting stuff, so I'm looking forward to using this in future on some cards and projects that we'll do. So I wanted to show you that. And let's see. Now on this one, I just did some stamping on top of it with some VersaFine black. And so it came out really, really nicely and clearly. These two you saw on that video, but I went back on these and put some clear packing tape. This little 3M Scotch clear packing tape. It's kind of heavy duty, and it makes a really nice finished product. And I had already done all the stamping on it. There's a little bit of washi tape sticker on this, but this one was made out of tissue paper. This one I made out of a paper napkin that a good friend of mine from Australia had sent me. They were just beautiful, and I had been kind of hoarding them actually, and so I thought, well, I'll just try a little sheet of the paper napkin on the tape that I used and see how that does. And I was able to stamp on it and distress the edges on it. Let me show you what I used some of this on, so you get some ideas. I made a little, I'm going to a retreat, and I made a little address book where I was hoping to capture some new friends' addresses and maybe phone numbers so I could send them some cards along the way. And so I made this little address book out of some paper that coordinated with my little pocket, and then I put my little washi tape on and did my little bookbind stitching there, made a little tab, and it fits nicely in there. And then I did the same thing with my little pen holder, because I knew I'd need a pen and I would have to be searching for one all the time. I stamped this with a stamp. It's an old stamp, it's not available anymore, from paperwishes.com. They call it watercolor butterflies, I think, I don't know. But and then I put another piece of that washi on the back of it. So it makes a nice little kit for me to take with me this next week. Let me show you the tape that I used, because it really is the key here. I'll get this stuff out of the road. This is basic BAZIC, double-sided tape, and it comes in a package like this. It has a, this is 1-inch tape. You can cut it easily on your paper cutter, and I will leave a link to this down below so that if you're all interested, you can get some. Now, the one thing I want to tell you is this is permanent tape. So don't think you're going to be able to do any peel back on it, because you just can't. It goes down and it's stuck. So be aware of that. Now, let's get started with my little project today. I've already kind of gotten a head start with just some basics here. Now, this was the tissue paper that I used, and I'll leave a link to that down below again as well, because there is a world of things that you can do with this tissue paper. I had to turn my overhead fan on because I was starting to get warm in here. But if you don't have tissue paper like this, you can use the white piece off of a paper napkin. You know, when we do any kind of work with paper napkins, you have at least one white layer, and sometimes you have two. And once you put the tape on, it becomes very, very usable, and you can manipulate it however you want to then. Now, I've gone ahead and stamped on this. There was an older set of Stampin' Up! Stamps. I have this little script stamp that I used, and I just hand stamped down with that. And I had a little blending tool here, and I just pounced some brown ink circles down on that. And then I wanted to go back and do just a little bit of script on some of these in VersaFine so that it will really pop. Well, before we do that, let's run the tape on it, because it does have an effect on where you're going to cut it. And you can do long pieces or short pieces, however you want to. This stuff will store. I'll probably keep mine in a little Stampin' Up! Plastic stamp container. Let me see where my scissors are here. And I'm going to put these kind of close so that I know about how much room I've got to lose between them. And I'm just going to fill this back side of this paper napkin with some tape. And I think I like this one up here a little better. We may try to do a little torn edge on that one. I don't know whether it'll work or not, but we'll see. Might as well experiment with it. It's not anything but a scrap anyway. So there's that. And I'm going to put my tool on here and just press that in nicely. And you have to be a little careful. See how that tore? You know how these paper napkins are. They're really kind of fragile. But once you put the tape on it, it becomes a little less fragile. Now, it's not indestructible. Please don't think it is. The tissue paper is actually a little stronger than these paper napkins or serviettes, depending upon where you are in the world. So let's turn these back over and see. I want to do just a little bit of stamping here. And I'm going to put it up on a foam pad and see if I can get a good image. Sometimes when you've got little scribbly stuff, you kind of like to look and see if you can actually read something in it. And this might do just that. This is one of my favorite stamps. Well, I say that. I have so many, it's hard to have a favorite. That's craziness. It says, kindness shared is heaven's art that softens life and warms the heart. Is that not just precious? I just think it's precious. Okay, well, let's just do one or two more here. And there we go. And then I thought perhaps I might glue some of these little stamps down that I've got. And I got these vintage stamps several years ago. They're canceled, some of them. But I got them from eBay in a big bunch. And I really like them. I don't know that they've really been used. I think they may be just canceled in the scheme of things. Let's get my favorite glue stick here and see if we can get some of these put down on here. I'm not sure this will work, but I thought we would try. And I'm just going to try to put it where it'll cut into two strips of the washi here that we're working on. Perhaps. Ooh. My glue stick is getting must be getting a little low, or else I got too much rolled out. That's possible. Look at that one. It says Indian hunting buffalo, United States of America, 4-cent stamp. Isn't that a nice stamp? Didn't have a year on it. Okay. And this one, wildlife conservation. Okay. Let's try this and see how it works now. I'll put that one up here, like that. Now, I'm going to turn this over and run my hand down it just to press those stamps into the napkins well. And if you want to add more color, of course now would be the time to do it. And I've got my smusher here somewhere. Let me get some colored ink. So I'm going to use some, this is certainly celery. It wouldn't make any difference what color it was. If you were working on a project, you could coordinate your tape then to whatever you were working on. So let's just add a little more color into some of this. And see how it turns out. And all I'm doing is, this is a dry smush, if you will. There. There. That's probably enough. Now let's cut this apart and see how it looks. And all I'm going to do then is to turn this over on the back and trim it with my scissors. You could use your paper cutter for this if you wanted to, but I think for this part it's just easier to do with some scissors. And I'm going to take this little edge off since the other edge is smooth. And then, so there's one. When you cut those images like that, it makes it a little more interesting. I wish I had kind of offset this one, but I didn't. Let me cut the rest of them except for this one. We'll see if we can do something a little different with it. And I'll be right back. Okay, now on this one, I want to run a little bit of water down I don't want it really wet because I don't want to run the ink, but I want to run just a little bit of water down and see if we can just do a little soft tear on this. I know that stamp's going to be in the way, but maybe we can work with it because it gives a little structure there. Yep, that's working fine. So there's a little torn edge, which might be really interesting on a project. Let's do this side too. And then I'll set it aside and let it dry. Yeah, I didn't get enough water on it. Yeah. Okay, so there's that one with the torn edge. Let me set this aside and let it dry up well, and we'll come back to these now and see what we think we might like to do with them. And one of the things that I have kind of liked the result on is adding a little bit of distressing ink to the outside, and I find that the best way to do that because these are kind of flimsy is to hold it with a little stiffer edge, and then I'm just going to put a little black edge on this to distress it a little bit, and you can see what I'm doing here. It just adds a little more structure when I'm doing my ink on the edge that way. I still haven't found my blending brushes, but these little guys here that I have no idea where I got them, I think they came from the Dollar Tree, but these are nice because you can use them until they start to fray, and then you can cut them off and use them again until they start to fray until you get down to that wooden dowel, and so they're kind of handy to use in something like this. Okay. So now this one's kind of distressed at the edges then. And let's see. Hang on, let me get this finished. So there's a wide one that's got distressing all the way around. Let's do this one, and then I'm going to cut it in half. And we'll see how it looks. But you see that little piece of white paper napkin there becomes very useful, and it's going to be somewhat transparent. Now, not obviously transparent, but somewhat transparent. And we'll use some here in a second. I'm going to put this on my trimmer. I'll probably have to cut it a little shorter. Yeah. Let me just waste a little bit of this. I'm going to take it to here because I might like to use that on something as it is. Oh, you know, before I do that, let's put a little bit of clear packing tape. Well, no, because I want to distress the sides. Hang on. So I'm just going to cut this in half. And it works very well that way with that tape backing on it. And then I'm going to go back in and just finish my distressing on that edge that I just cut. And there we go. So, let me do this one. And then we'll see how some of these look on some of that book page that I've got. All right. So this is our little faux washi tape used with the white part of a paper napkin. Could have been, you could probably do it with vellum if you were going to make it 1 inch or smaller in your width that way. But so here they are. And let's go ahead and try a couple of these on some book page. And see what they look like. There. And I find if you kind of work the napkin side to roll it back, it works better. But usually what happens is it'll catch hold of your fingernail a little bit. And then when I'm trying to put something straight, because, like for example, let's try to put this right up against this line here. And I'll leave my tape backing on and then set it where I want it and hold it and tape my one end down and then pull this back. And that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to turn loose of it. You want to keep hold of it. And there we go. I'll bring it all the way out to the edge and then cut it and smooth it back down, because I can use this piece somewhere else. And there we go. So you can't see through that very much, but I can see the little typewritten. You probably can't see it, but I can see it right through there. Let's try a piece of this with the torn edge and see how it does. It's going to be a lot easier to peel this because you got something to grab hold of. Same way. And see how it looks. And then I'll cut this off here. There. See how nice that is? I think that's just so cool. And it adds a lot of interesting dimension there. And your paper napkin, it might tear up a little bit here if you're really rough with it, but I think in general, it will work very, very well for you. So that's all I've got for today. I just want to make a real short little video, and it's got longer than I thought it would, but it occurred to me that I hadn't shown you about the packing tape. Let's do that. And I'm going to start my tape back here a little further, where I've got just a tiny bit of control over it, because, oops, because it doesn't always play well. And maybe I'll just do one at a time. There. Doing two at a time might just be an act of craziness. Oh, crazy enough as it is, so I don't necessarily want to be crazier. So this one then, I'm just going to trim it, and then we're going to go back in and push it down really firmly with that little tool that I can't remember the name of. I'm just trimming the edge here. And because I've gotten this on the top of the napkin, then it really makes this significantly more substantial. Let's look. I'm just going to push this down so it's got a real good adherence to it. And that makes this much sturdier. So I'm going to peel a piece of this off. And that's the only thing. You have to be kind of patient when you're dragging the tape off, the backing off of it. So then I'm just going to put it on this book page and show you how that looks. So here's 4 examples of my little serviette white paper washi tape, if you will. So I hope y'all have a great day, and I will talk to you again as soon as I get back. And have a good week. Bye, everybody.